happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Paranormies present the Ahnenerbe Hour. I am Johnny Monoxide, and this evening we are joined by Adam Haidt. What's up, Adam?
What's going on? I just got back from work.
Nice.
Because Skinny Adam has a job.
Nice. And we are joined once again by Mr. Scott Taylor. What's happening, Scott?
Hello.
Succinct.
I'm going to do that every time.
That's going to be your shtick, just a hello? All right, cool. Yeah. All right, so this week, before we get into all that, we have an announcement, as we said we would do. We have a Hazard McRee update. He has a website that you guys can check out. It is called angryfrog.biz. So you guys want to check out what Hazard's doing? Go check him out at angryfrog.biz. All right. So back to the Paranormies. We have a new Twitter handle, and that new Twitter handle is at Real Paranormies. Our Gmail is still paranormiespresents@gmail.com. And you guys can donate to the Paranormies at paranormiespresents@gmail.com. And we have our Facebook page, which is the Paranormies Presents the Ahnenerbe Hour. And did I miss any social media there, Adam?
I'm pretty sure YouTube is like the same.
Yes.
We always have links to that in the show notes, but it's just like if you just search Paranormies, we're popular enough now that you should be able to find it.
We
don't have any like bootlegs out there, so
we're popular now. Awesome.
Yeah, actually.
I love it. Yeah, I love reading some of the comments. On YouTube.
I love the comments so much.
YouTube comments are the best. Yes, do it and argue with the people, because then the best ones are on the Pizzagate. Have you guys gone and checked out the Pizzagate?
Oh my god!
Comments. We have Christians. We have Christians fighting with atheists, and black guys fighting with people, and everybody calling us anti-Semites because they don't understand why we keep referring back to the Jews on this whole thing and stuff. Oh my god, it's so funny. Actually, speaking of Pizzagate, I got a little update for you guys. You guys want to hear it?
Yes.
James Alefantis, Jamie l'enfant, I love children in French, Mr. Alefantis, who owns Comet Ping Pong Pizza. Apparently, there was a guy or somebody who was investigating the quote-unquote kill rooms, and Alefantis threatened to kill his entire family. So I'm sorry, Scott. What'd you say, Scott? What'd you say, Scott?
It sounds like he's innocent. I don't think.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
it's the most innocent thing I've ever heard.
If somebody accuses me of arson, I just burn their house down.
Right. Totally. Yep. That's exactly what it is. Yep.
It's the only way to prove you didn't do it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I saw that today. I was like, a little update from Pizzagate. Yeah. And for those of you who think that the Paranormies just did our little episode and now we're not talking about it anymore because now it's not popular, well, there's really not much more new information out there on it. When there is more new information, we will report on it. We are still very interested. We're still very distraught over the whole topic. It still brings angry feels every time I think about it. So.
But now then the new sexual deviancy in the news is Trump having prostitutes pee on Obama's bed, and also his pajama hentai movie theater party in Moscow.
Yeah, which sounds straight out of a Reddit fanfic.
Well,
I like how
let's give some credit to 4chan shit posters. Reddit right. People, they don't go quite as hardcore. They have their own little thing going on.
I like how that whole thing popped up and went away in like 24 hours, though.
Yeah.
Well, once they figured, once the news figured out they fucked up really bad, and they're like, "Oh no!" All right. No, we're getting off the Paranormies type stuff. But yeah. All right.
YouTube commenters, I know they don't like when we get off topic. So
Yeah, that was the thing. But the YouTube comments, are great. So keep them coming, Goyam. We love them. We love all the interactions. We like the discus comments. And I joke around leave a shitty comment, and I don't care. I do care. It hurts my heart. So if you guys want to keep hurting their feelings,
make them cry.
Yeah. Leave a shitty comment, make Johnny cry. All right. So this week, we have a very special date coming up this week. Does anybody?
Saturday the 14th.
I think it's
Sunday the 15th.
It's like. Anybody recognize that?
Is it Thursday the 12th?
It is Friday the 13th.
Oh,
I
shit.
never would have guessed.
Never would have guessed. Yeah, Friday the 13th, and that's a very special date for a lot of people. I mean, it's a spooky date. Obviously, I mean, they made a whole series of movies. I hope I don't get copyright infringements by using that sound effect, but I think I kept it under 20 seconds. You want to go first, Scott?
Yeah. Well, Friday the 13th is kind of a culmination of a couple different superstitions. One of which is number 13 is traditionally seen as very unlucky. And also Friday is also seen as unlucky, or at least it used to be in the past. I don't think it is so much anymore. Friday used to be, in Roman times, execution day. That's when they would kill all of their prisoners or whoever they had to kill.
Oh, wow.
In Britain, it was known as Hangman's Day. Basically for the same reason. So a lot of these superstitions, when I was reading about superstitions, prepping for the show, a lot of them stem from death of one sort or another. Like the whole ladder superstition has to do with the hanging as well. One of the reasons is sometimes they would improvise, and instead of gallows, they would basically just hang you from a ladder.
Oh, wow.
And the idea, yeah. So the idea was, as you die, your spirit hangs around under the ladder, and anyone that walks underneath the ladder, might get latched onto by your dead spirit, and
is that why the superstition for walking under the ladders thing?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's really interesting. I was reading about the ladder thing. I was looking up different superstitions. And one other thing I saw, which I thought was kind of spurious, I thought it was a bit of a stretch, was that the ladder, usually like pretty much when you use a ladder, it forms a triangle. And supposedly that was supposed to, it has three sides, which somehow represents the Trinity. And if you walk through it, it disrupts it, which doesn't really make sense to me. It doesn't seem disruptive because you're walking basically through it. You're not breaking the triangle.
Right.
It almost seems like that should cause it to be lucky. But actually, and we can get to this a little bit later, that kind of touches on the sort of weird, almost meta of superstitions where they don't always really make any sense or seem to come from anywhere. But we can talk about that a little bit more later.
Speaking of fear of things, the fear of Friday the 13th is called paraskivedekatriophobia.
How many times did you practice that?
There's a $2 word. If I literally, no, I didn't. I honest to God, I didn't practice that. I literally scrolled down to it, and I'm like, that is a huge salad of letters. It's paraskivedekatriophobia.
I was going to ask if you wanted to try it or if you wanted me to try it, because I figured one of us would probably fuck it up.
No, I got it. Yeah, that is the fear of Friday the 13th.
Good job.
Thank you. Well, there's other superstitions that go with Friday the 13th. I mean, it's you said like the Hangman's Day and whatever. There wasn't Friday the 13th was the day that the Templars were excommunicated from the church, correct?
Actually, no. Supposedly, that's not the case. That's a commonly held belief. But the fear of Friday the 13th, I don't know when the Templars were excommunicated. Was that like in the 1200s or something? Yeah. I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure the Da Vinci Code popularized that story, and I'm not even kidding. Like, that was part of the story, and people were just like, well, this book makes me feel smart, so it's probably true.
Right. Well, I know that Fridays in general go back to the Canterbury Tales as far as when they were considered to be unlucky. I'm not sure when that was written. I think it's sometime in the 1400s, something like that. But as far as Friday the 13th itself, we don't really see a lot of literature or a lot of mentions of it up until like the 1700s. And I'm not really sure the reason for that. I think some of it might be because just the combination of Fridays and the combination of 13, and people kind of just associated those together. So it's like a double unlucky day.
Well, hang on a second. Friday, October 13th, 1307, scores of French Templars were simultaneously arrested by agents of King Philip.
Okay, well, I guess there's
I don't know. I'm not trying to just like mindlessly counter signal, but I read that in a couple different things, and it seems unsubstantiated. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not just trying to like shit on you, but I don't know about that one. I would like to confirm it.
It's literally, when you look up Friday the 13th Knights Templar, it's like the first 3 pages. It's all,
really?
Yeah.
All right.
Even in Wikipedia, you know, at the dawn of the 13th of Friday in 1307, I don't know, that's not the day they were excommunicated. That was the day, I guess, the order was carried through to have them all arrested.
Okay.
So there is. I knew there was one because I thought I studied a lot. Yeah. Later to be tortured at such locations such as the Tower of Chinon, admitting to heresy and other sacrilegious offenses in the order. Then they were put to death.
Fucking brutal.
Yeah. So that's part. Now that is. They say that is part of the legend of Friday the 13th, but I mean that may or may not necessarily be true. There's a lot more to Friday the 13th than just the Templar Knights.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's kind of hard to really pinpoint the origin because there's so many different things that it could be, you know, any one thing or any combination of things. One of the theories that I came across that I'm personally kind of skeptical of was that it has to do with the fact that Friday is considered unlucky because of the pagan origin of the day, or the name of the day, rather. But that doesn't really
Friggs
make
Day.
much sense.
Friggs Day,
Friggs
right?
Day.
Yeah.
But basically, every day of the week is named after a pagan god.
Right. So every day of the week could be something bad, right? Yeah.
Well, I guess, you know, depending on your perspective, but
Or if you're Adam.
Friday is not necessarily. Yeah. Right.
Well,
Friday is not necessarily any more pagan than any of the other days.
Yeah,
So,
and there's also like, apparently, you know, that was like Friggs Day or whatever, the goddess of like fertility and sex and that sort of thing. And so like getting married on that day was considered to be good luck. And so there's, you know, like speculation that when Christianity, you know, when Christendom was forming in Europe, they were, you know, counter-signaling all pagan things and just trying to reverse them. And I'll spare you guys the Mosaic distinction rant. But
thank you.
You know,
Thank you very
sort
much.
of take all things that pagans considered good and just flip them on its head. I've seen that. I don't know how much to make of that. How much of that is just like anti-Christian signaling? How much, you know, to put into it?
I did see some pagan counter signaling on Friday the 13th when I was doing like show prep. It was kind of one of those like really gay Wiccan websites, you know, where like women worship their periods and like dance around trees and shit.
Good.
Yeah. So the person writing the article I was reading, they said that Friday the 13th was an exceptionally lucky day. So I don't know if that has anything to do with what you mentioned as far as like the old viewpoints of it or anything, but it does seem like either way, some people do tend to view Friday the 13th as a good day rather than a bad day. But you mentioned getting married, and there's a bunch of these old accounts or sayings, whatever you want to call them, from the 17 and 1800s, talking about like things you shouldn't do on Friday the 13th. And marriage was one of them. They said that if you get married on Friday the 13th, you'll be fighting like cats and dogs for your entire marriage. Another one is like you don't want to set sail on a ship that day because you could die at sea, or try not to have any kids on that day, or like go hunting. One of the more interesting ones I saw was about these field shares. These guys who helped out in the field, and they were ordered by their boss, whatever you want to call him, basically to start plowing on Friday the 13th. So what they did, because they were so superstitious about it, is the day before they went out with their plows and they just plowed one line of the field. And the reasoning was that they started on Thursday the 12th rather than Friday the 13th. So technically they wouldn't be cursed and have like a bad crop because of it.
That is really interesting because I actually read basically the same story, except it was starting a harvest on Thursday the 12th.
Okay.
And then I just real quick, because you mentioned that it is hard to pinpoint exactly when it started, but but there's this general idea that people have that it's it's like an old superstition. And I found this apparently in 1908, there were articles run talking about this U.S. senator who introduced 13 bills on a Friday the 13th, and this happened in 1908. And in the articles written about it in the New York Times, let's see, I don't know which of the Times. It was either the LA or the NY Times. They say that it's an ancient superstition as well, when it's really not. It's a modern superstition in the grand scheme of things.
Right. There's a lot of other superstitions that are actually a lot more modern than people would think. Like the whole, if you break a mirror, you'll have bad luck for 7 years. That didn't really come around until about 500 years ago. And the reason was, before that, a lot of mirrors, and I'm sure some commenter will tell me I'm wrong about this, but a lot of mirrors...
Actually...
actually...
and push the glasses up. No, I'm just kidding. I love our fans.
Yes. A lot of mirrors were made out of glass after the 1600s, but before that, they were made out of like polished metals and things like that. So you couldn't really break it. It's like a plate of really polished brass or copper or whatever. But after that, they would use glass with silver behind it. And supposedly one of the reasons that people thought that it was so unlucky to break a mirror was because if, say, a servant did it, they'd have to basically work for the next 7 years to pay the mirror off, just because it was so expensive.
That's where you get the 7 years of bad luck.
Yeah, at least it's one of the reasons. And that's the thing about a lot of these superstitions or, folklore in general is it's kind of hard to actually pinpoint the specific origins of it, which I guess makes sense because, it's all word of mouth for however many years. And then people are like, oh, hey, we all noticed this. Let's write it down.
You're saying some people actually looked at 13 as a good thing. And one of the reasons that is in the early days of Western civilization, the number 13 represented femininity because if you count the number of lunar cycles, which actually corresponds to menstrual cycles, a menstrual cycle is 28 days. There are technically 13 in a year, 364 days. There's a carving called the Earth Mother of Loselle, is a 27,000-year-old carving found by the Lascaux caves in France. It depicts a female figure holding a crescent-shaped horn with 13 notches in it. So there's your 13 trips around with the moon. So I can see where maybe these Wiccans and their period worship, would think that was great. But I mean, then as the solar calendar took over with the rise of the male-dominated civilization, so did the perfect number 12 over the imperfect number 13. Which is 13 is now considered anathema now. So,
and what
go ahead.
I think, and this is just kind of my own perspective, and I don't know how much weight to really put into it, but the whole thing about 13 being unlucky, I think, is largely like a Judeo-Christian tradition. Just
the
because
Chinese,
of how
the Chinese are super superstitious about 13.
really
They also
because-
don't like the number 4. And the reason is their word for 4 and their word for death are the same word.
That's right.
So a lot of times what they'll do is they'll skip the 4th floor on like buildings and stuff. In the same way, sometimes like in old hotels in America, you'll see them skip the 13th floor. They'll do the same with the number 4.
Yeah, I think I said this in our numerology episode a while back. If you haven't listened to it, always go back and do so. I said that in the city of San Francisco, which has a very large Chinese population, the older buildings, none of them have a 13th floor. Yeah, all the old Chinese-owned buildings for sure don't.
Yeah, I know that a lot of cities won't number, like they won't have like a 13th street as well. Just anything with the number 13 or like house numbers, like they'll just skip it over completely. And
right.
I guess just if you don't acknowledge it, it's not there. I don't know.
That's weird because my speculation was that like the sort of like the Hebrew obsession with the number 12, and then having that infiltrator, that interloper enter and bump it up to 13.
Well, I mean,
that was kind of where I thought that came from.
There was the 12 tribes, the 12 disciples. How many people? But how many people were at the Last Supper?
13.
13, and one of them was the deceiver, the traitor. Yeah,
Judas.
That motherfucker.
Oh, and also in apparently Giacomo Raffaelli's mosaic copy of the Last Supper by Da Vinci, one of the most famous paintings ever. Judas, the 13th guest, knocked over some salt with it, which is another superstition we can talk about a little bit later.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I actually don't know too much about that one, so I'd be interested to hear.
I think that's just funny.
Well, they said that. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of that in the Bible. A lot of the 13s, a lot of Friday stuff. The Friday bad reputation goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden.
What happened there?
It was on a Friday.
Did something bad happen at the Garden of Eden?
Well, yeah. It was on a Friday that Eve tempted Adam with the forbidden fruit. Adam bit, as we all learned in Sunday school, and they were both ejected from paradise. If they had, big niggas in big coats doing thought patrol, we wouldn't have.
I'm sorry.
But no, all right, yeah. So I mean, like, there's other traditions. This says that the flood began on a Friday. God tongue-tied the builders of the Tower of Babel on a Friday. The Temple of Solomon was destroyed on a Friday, and of course,
Jesus was crucified on a Friday.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. So
that's where we get Good Friday from.
That is where we get. Why do they call it Good Friday when they killed Jesus? Oh wait, the Jews did that, and so therefore,
actually,
no, I'm kidding.
It's theorized that Good Friday, because a lot of people wonder that. A lot of people think it has to do with some sort of old Germanic word. I'm not really sure of anything beyond that. It might be something to do with God or something like that, but I'm not really sure.
Not that they're happy.
Ironically enough, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I said if I had to guess, and again, total speculation, Good Friday, even though he died, the reason they make that good is because like it sucks that, like, in the tradition, like it sucks that our Savior was killed, but
right,
it had to happen for us to get the good stuff.
Right.
But again, I basically just made that up right now. It could be totally.
No, that would make sense. I mean, that's, the whole concept of salvation basically stems from the fact that Jesus died. So, without that, you don't have the salvation.
It's like an inversion of the Friday bad luck.
Mm-hmm. And actually, in superstition, Good Friday is seen as an inversion of Fridays in general. Like the whole thing where they won't, try to time like marriages on Good Friday or any of that. If anything happens on a Good Friday, that is considered to be exceptionally like lucky, basically. So people will try to time marriages or votes being launched or, childbirth.
Oh,
and what have you.
Speaking of boats being launched, Well, you have. Well, that's actually one of the bad things. Ships that set sail on Friday will have bad luck, as in the tale of the HMS Friday. Set sail on a Friday.
I thought you were going to say the Titanic.
No,
That's just asking to get screwed over by luck.
Yeah.
Right. Sailors are some of the most superstitious people in the world. I mean, if we want to cover superstitions later on, there are so many nautical superstitions. Like, we could do a whole episode by itself.
Oh yeah.
Of that.
Johnny, was there?
Oh, and
more
I just
to
debunked
the Friday story.
Just debunked myself. Yeah, I was because it's just a myth. It was one of your. We were just like you just said that sailors have so many superstitions. And one of them was that the HMS Friday was launched on a Friday. And the museum, the Portsmouth Royal Navy Museum, said that no HMS Friday had ever existed. So actually, yeah, I just debunked myself. So never. False alarm.
The story about it though is really funny. It's one of those like stories that people like to share because apparently I'm looking through all my tabs to find it, but like the captain was named Friday.
The ship was named the HMS Friday. They laid her keel on a Friday. She was launched on a Friday, selected her crew on a Friday, hired a man named Jim Friday to be her captain, and finally was on a Friday that the HMS Friday embarked on her maiden voyage and was never seen or heard from again. Funny thing is, none of that happened. Like, literally, can you imagine the level of coincidence that it would take to have all of that? Yeah, I mean, like, yeah. So,
there are actually a lot of really strange coincidences that have to do with the Titanic. Just as a slight digression, the Titanic disaster was basically predicted in a book that came out I think a dozen years before it happened.
Really?
And there were, I cannot remember the name of it. It was, I think, Futility might have been. It was it was a novel, and the author talked about the dimensions of it. I think it went down after hitting an iceberg, all these things. And it has a lot of weird parallels with the Titanic, but totally predicted it. Came out a decade before the Titanic ever sunk.
Well, didn't that one, the Tom Clancy novel predict 9/11 or whatever?
Did that happen? I don't know.
It's one of those things you read in a comment in the millions of other shit you're reading that day, and
we're getting off the subject, though, guys.
You're right.
Let's not get yelled at for shit posting.
It's informative.
It is informative, right?
It's shit posting.
But back to you said the Friday being derived from the goddess Frigg or Freya. That was originally, the goddess of love for the Romans, right? And they named Friday after her, in her honor, Dies Veneris. It was very lucky pre-Christianity. That you get married on a Friday because of its, association with love and fertility. So Christianity comes along, the goddess of the sixth day, most likely Freya, considering that the cat was her sacred animal, was recast in post-pagan folklore as a witch, and her day became associated with evil doings. So, you have the witches of the north used to observe their Sabbath by gathering in the cemetery on in the dark of the moon. And on one occasion, the Friday goddess, Freya herself, came down from her sanctuary in the mountains and appeared before the group, who only numbered 12 at the time, and gave them one of her cats, which, after the witch's coven, and by tradition, every properly formed coven since, has comprised exactly 13. So now you have now it's no longer, it was no longer the number of fertility or whatever. Now it's the number of the witches. It's the cursed number.
Right.
So you have Friday the 13th. There's one of the legends there.
That's interesting when you talk about these pagan mythologies in the number 13, because supposedly one of the other possible origins for 13 being an unlucky number actually does go back to the pagans, and it's a story about Odin and 11 of his friends or fellow gods or whatever you want to call them. They're all sitting down for this feast, and they're all having a good time, and who should come through the door But Loki, who, if you know anything about mythology, is the god of mischief and all sorts of shenanigans and pranks and such. And I'm not really sure about the whole story, but basically one thing led to another. The banter got a little out of hand, I guess. And Balder, who was the god of joy and gladness and happiness, basically got shot by an arrow and died. And that was that.
Oh, so, hold on. This one's funny. I love this story because, like, the version that I read was that, the kind of the same thing happened, but Loki, what he did was he basically just told Hod, who was blind, to throw this spear of mistletoe, which is Balder's one weakness. And so he threw the spear of mistletoe to kill him. And I just think the story is funny as hell because he's basically just like, so I told Hod to hurl the spear of mistletoe at Balder, and he actually did it. The absolute
madman.
Got him.
The absolute mad god.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Now, speaking of feasts and parties and stuff, one of the more common superstitions in the 1800s, especially about 13 and all that sort of thing, was, and this ties back to the whole Last Supper with Jesus, but if there are 13 people sitting down to eat at a table, supposedly one of them will die within a year. And there's various accounts of who it'll be. Some people say it's the first to sit down. The last to sit down or the first to leave. So one of the workarounds is they'll have some people sit at a different table, or they'll have everybody sit down and stand up at the exact same time. So, I guess luck won't know who to get. So that's another one of them. And I think a lot of that has to go back to the Last Supper, because supposedly Judas was the last one to sit and also the first one to leave. I think the first one to leave actually is in the Bible, because he goes to meet with the Pharisees or whoever. I can't remember now, but that's another reason that you don't have people sitting in 13s in the 1800s, is just because there's a fear that someone will die within a year if they do so. Which, being the 1800s, was probably true regardless, because
yeah, everybody died really. Yeah, you did weird stuff, and you just died.
Someone will just get the rickets, and
yeah,
they live to the ripe old age of 37.
Right.
The rickets is like the funniest disease name to me for some reason.
Oh yeah. Oh my God! I read something just now.
It just reminds me of Rickety Cricket.
Right.
Yeah,
I just read something right now, and it says the astute reader, but what I read was the autiste reader. Just had to throw that out there, because it would work. Yeah, I'm sure we have. Well, yeah. What it was is a theory offered up as historical fact in the novel The Da Vinci Code. We talked about that a second ago, but this says it holds that the stigma came about not as the result of a convergence, but as a catastrophe, a single historical event that happened 700 years ago. Oh, we get back to the Knights Templar, yeah. That was the October 13th, and October 13th. In October is the spooky month. We have
right.
Halloween and Samhain.
Mm-hmm.
But they say that there's not a lot of documentation
I'm kind of skeptical of that one, and the reason
I don't doubt it. I mean, I don't doubt that it could be wrong.
The Knights Templar, I mean, they were a thing back then, but it seems to me like the focus on them hasn't really showed up until more recent years. Like, I don't think anyone gave a shit about the Knights Templar 300 years ago. It was kind of a historical curiosity at the most. I could be wrong, but it seems like that's more of a modern, like, Da Vinci Code, type of
thing. It's barely off top. It's tangential, but just to shill for Red Ice real quick, they did an interview with this guy who does stuff for Countercurrents, and I feel awful because I don't know his name off the top of my head, but they did a really good interview about like old Islamic secret societies, and ended up touching a lot on like old Christian like warrior monk secret societies, and talked about the Templars and stuff. So just tangentially, if you're interested in that, Red Ice did a great interview very recently about that.
Cool.
And speaking of Red Ice, Henrik, if you're listening, answer my DMs, please.
Please
Please
respond.
Please respond, senpai. All right. Back to the number 13. So it's a very unlucky number. Speaking of like we were talking about, like no floors on buildings being numbered 13, no houses. Number 13 in some places, streets. What other? Well, it is 13 is the most popular superstition in Western society, basically.
Right.
Now here, hold on. Here's something. The ancient Egyptians actually believed the number 13 brings good fortune, and they believed that there's 12 stages in life towards spiritual enlightenment, and the 13th stage was the eternal afterlife. So death wasn't really a place of fear. It was a place of high regard for the afterlife.
It's interesting that you mentioned Egyptians specifically because of their preoccupation with cats, and the same thing with the witches as well. I had the preoccupation with cats. So maybe if you have like toxoplasmosis from cat feces in your brain, you like the number 13 more or something. I don't know how that really works.
And we bring in obscure cat diseases. Well, no, I mean, actually,
Meow Blitz on this.
if you think it right,
We'll ask him how he feels about
Meow Blitz, if you're listening. Actually, well, if you think about it, okay.
For yes.
The ancient Egyptians believed the number 13 was lucky, and then when Christianity came around, the number 13 became unlucky. Now, could that have something to do with Christianity becoming the major religion and trying to squash the old ancient religions of
Trying to keep a brother down because we was kings.
If you look at there's theories that most of the Old Testament is basically plagiarized from Egyptian history. The Ten Commandments were ripped out of the Egyptian Book of Spells.
Wait, are you telling me that Hebrews would rip off other people's work for their own profit?
Why? I never.
That just doesn't sound right.
Yes, actually.
I'm a little skeptical that all of it comes from... I mean, I'm sure some of it comes from Christianity.
No, I'm not saying all of it. I'm not saying all of it, yeah.
I mean,
I never said all. I never said all.
But
I never said all.
Okay. But the Egyptians thought it was good luck, but the Romans thought that 13 was really bad luck. They associated it with death and misfortune and all these other things. So I think that for whatever reason, it's just one of those numbers that, you either think it's really lucky or you think it's really unlucky. Do
you think there's any, like... It's 13. Like, why did they pick that one? I've seen some stuff about, like, it being a little more than the perfect 12. Do you know if there's anything else about 12?
12 is considered... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the 13 thing stems from, as far as I can tell, stems from the lunar cycles and the menstrual cycles. That's where 13 originally, because there's, the 13 days, or the 13 cycles in the lunar year. And it goes back to lunar worship.
I think there's an interesting dichotomy between 12 and 13. And also, I think that it parallels that whole sun and moon dichotomy, where you have either moon worship and, getting in touch with the earth and all these feminine impulses versus like the sun, the whole like Helios thing, masculinity, civilization, things like that. So I think it's interesting how 12 and 13 are kind of like a microcosm conflict of that whole sun versus moon, male versus female dynamic.
The eternal struggle of man versus woman.
Yeah, that's what all this comes down to.
It all comes down at the end of the day. It's men versus women, dark versus light,
like
good versus evil.
Like ancient thought patrol.
Right?
Yeah.
In the
12.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, let's talk about the number 12 there for a second.
Yeah, just real quick. Like, it's apparently in some numerology considered like a perfect complete number. You can use it for like early math, because they didn't have calculators back then. I don't know how the heck they knew how to count more than 10 without a calculator. I can't do it.
They used an abacus, dude.
But there was like apparently like a dozen base system of numbers that was more useful in those times.
Yeah, well, that might still be more useful today. There's actually a lot of like mathematicians and stuff would prefer that we use a dozenal base system rather than a base 10. And one of the big reasons, and it's also I think one of the reasons that 12 is considered such a complete number or lucky number, is you can basically divide 12 by more numbers beneath it than any other of the like early numbers, like up to 20 or whatever. You have 2, 3, 4, 6, and it shares ratios with 8 and 10 and such.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas 10, you can divide by 5 and 2, and that's it.
That's it, yeah.
So with, when you divide like 1/3 is 0.33 whatever. Well, 1/3 of 10 is that in a decimal system. But if you have a dozenal base system, 1/3 would just be written 0.25.
Right. That makes it a lot easier.
It's a lot easier for fractions and things like that. And you even see that today with like at the grocery store. You have eggs come in dozens. They have a baker's dozen, which is actually 13, but the reason it's called a baker's dozen is that way back when, I'm not sure when, but it used to be that if bakers would give you less than you paid for, they could be criminally liable. And I don't know if they'd hang them or what the hell they'd do to them.
String them up.
Sure.
Yeah, the cop walks into the donut shop and is like, nah, this isn't good enough. Get to the gallows.
Imagine if every time you went to like McDonald's and they fucked up your order, they could die. What a wonderful world that would be.
Oh.
But so
somewhere right now, Sean Last is smiling thinking about that.
So the baker's dozen comes from that. They would have, say like, I want 12, donuts, whatever the fuck you get. And just out of, I guess, paranoia or just to make sure, they'd throw in an extra one just as like a hedge against giving you too little.
I had heard that the 13th was for them to taste. And like all the bakers were just like thick as hell. And so they just like to eat an extra one.
Right. Well, that could be.
It's like that
too. I don't know.
That's that one, that Far Side at the donut shop. And the guy is like, he's like, I don't get it. We're moving over whatever number of donuts, but we're just barely squeaking by. And the guy sweeping the floor is like 800 pounds.
See, a baker's
I don't get it.
Was actually, yeah. A baker's dozen was originally 16, but they would 3 and give you 1 extra. That's where it comes from.
Oh.
But no, anyway, so you see a lot of dozens and a lot of a gross, which is 144, a dozen dozens.
Mm-hmm.
You see a lot of these things in old measurements.
Mathematically, 12 works out a lot easier with a lot of math.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess that's why it's the perfect number.
Well, there's a movement that'll, of course, never go anywhere to switch over to a base 12 system.
That sounds autistic as hell.
It's very autistic, but if you have autism and you like math, you should look it up because it's pretty interesting stuff.
This is the point where half of our fans stop the podcast.
And the other half listen really intently to see if we delve deeper into autism.
Right.
But so yeah, dozens have a lot of history as far as currency. It's another one, like old British pounds and pennies and all their weird Brit bond currency. I think uses 12 a lot.
There's farthings and shit.
Yeah, who knows?
Farthing. What the fuck is a farthing?
It's farther than a near thing or something. Sorry.
That's good. That's good.
Fucking home run. So there's 12 notes in it.
We're just upset that Grayfield's gone.
Yeah. Every time we bring up anything British, we get sad because we no longer have Grayfield with us. Well,
I wish he were here so he could correct me on how their monetary system works. I'm sure I got something wrong, but who knows?
Right.
There's 12 notes in a scale, a Western scale. Mm-hmm. 12 months in a year, 12 hours on a clock. A day is 12 twice. In math, one system that actually does use 12 is in geometry. You have 360 degrees in a circle, which is easily divisible by 12. And if you've ever done like calculus or anything like that with sines and cosines, a lot of the even numbers, or not even numbers, but like the nice round numbers, like 1/2 and things like that, will take place along the circle on those spaces that are divisible by 12. So I think that 12 is a lot more of a useful number than 13. I mean, not to get into like what each number makes me feel like, but what's this week?
So, Scott, how do you feel about the number 34?
34. I have no opinion on 34.
All right, good.
None whatsoever.
So 12 is a good number. 13 is a bad number. What else?
I don't know
else?
if it's so much bad as it's just fucking useless. Like, what am I going to use 13 for?
Well, you see, and they're right there with your patriarchal, cisgendered male, right? We have taken the matrix, right? Well, I mean, you go back. I'm
sorry to insult the witches' coven and bakers everywhere, but 13.
Oh, Lord.
Letters from a lot of bakers.
Right.
Let's see if I ever stop at Krispy Kreme again.
Oh, I love Krispy Kreme. Okay, stop. Okay, so back to the number 13. Okay, and the Friday the 13th and the superstitions around the number 13. In 1881, there's a group of New Yorkers. They set out to debunk this and like all other superstitions around the number 13. They started this group called the 13 Club. So you can guess when their first meeting took place.
Probably Friday the 13th.
That's right. It was. You're good, Scott. You're good. That's why you're on the show now.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Friday the 13th.
He was a governor.
No, he wasn't. He knows a governor. On Friday the 13th at 8:13 p.m., 13 people sat down to dinner in a room number 13. Now, to get into the room, each guest walked under a ladder and sat down around piles of spilled salt. Needless to say, nobody died. So for the next 40 years, 13 clubs cropped up all over the United States, but then faded from popularity, once, I don't know, what's 40 years after 1920, I guess, flappers and stuff got all popular, and the dance craze took away the superstitious club. But for 40 years...
Again, thoughts ruining everything. Trying to have a principled dinner.
Trying to have a principled... No.
Yeah.
I never looked at it like that, Adam, but you have literally opened my eyes to the subject. Now, these people were having a principled, and then here we come with your flapper caps and your short skirts and your cigarettes.
Knees.
And your knees. God. Right?
That seems like a really stupid fucking club to have. Like...
The 13 Club?
Like, hey, we have it. Yeah, we have like... Just imagine somebody who comes up to you and it's like, hey, you want to join my club? And it's like, well, what do you do? And like, oh, we eat dinner in a room with a 13 on the door. Like,
well, I mean, in 1896, but in 1896, they didn't
have anything else to do.
Right. It wasn't like they could get on Steam and play some what is it? Vending machine operator, yeah. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
I'm telling you, I'm making that game. How funny would
it be though dude, it's got to be a game already. You're probably
has to be.
The party.
Somebody heard me say that they already made it.
If like they had that party and like at the first one, like the building burned down or something.
well then it would be then Friday the 13th wouldn't be like a holiday, but it would be like a national day where everybody just like huddles together back to back to make sure nothing bad happens.
I have a funny story about that I'll have to bring out later when we're really stretching for material. I'm going to save that one for the end.
Right.
But actually, they've done scientific studies on Friday the 13th, and
hold on, implying that we run out of material.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned, listeners.
Yes, stay tuned. We'll get that after the break.
Scott's got a story coming up next hour. We're coming up on about 50 minutes, I think, in the first. You guys want to call it a first hour right now? Do a little music break, and then come back and do the second hour.
We can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like second hour, do you want to like branch out a little bit in terms of different superstitions and I
Well, hey,
I would
Adam,
actually
Adam.
like to.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, go ahead. I didn't realize we were going to do this part on the air, but go.
Oh, I'm just interested in luck generally, and I just have a couple little things I want to talk about luck as a concept.
Okay.
That's all.
Now, luck is an interesting concept and can be very spooky too. Yeah, so we're going to listen to a song, and we'll come back in a few minutes after this is over. We'll be back.
Turning in the widening journey. The falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed. And everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Second coming is at hand. The second coming. Hardly are those words out when a vast image out of spiritus suddenly troubles my sight. A waste of desert sand, a shape with lion body and the head of a man. A gaze blank and pitiless as the sun is moving its slow thighs. While all about it, real shadows of the indignant desert birds. The darkness drops again, but now I know that 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle. And what rough beast? Its hour come round at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born.
All right, everybody, we are back. We are still the Paranormies present the Ahnenerbe Hour. I am still Johnny Monoxide here with Mr. Adam Haidt and Mr. Scott Taylor. We are talking about Friday the 13th.
All right. So I know before the music break, we were talking about, well, I said I had a study to drop on you guys. So back in 1993, there were some scientists who they wrote a paper, and you can look this up. It's called "Is Friday the 13th Bad for Your Health?" And the answer will surprise you. So basically, what they did is they tracked vehicles and shoppers and hospital admissions on Friday the 13th. This is in the United Kingdom. And basically what they were doing is they wanted to see if more people were admitted to the hospital during that day, if more car accidents happened, things like that.
Oh, I read this. They did the study between this Friday the 6th and Friday the 13th, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes, this is hilarious. Go ahead.
So the first thing that they studied was the number of people who were out shopping. That actually didn't change. They also studied the number of vehicles on the road, and there were actually between 1 to 4%, depending on the region, 1 to 4% fewer vehicles on the road on Friday the 13th. So possibly what that means is maybe 1 to 4% of the population is so superstitious about the day that they just stay home or they don't drive. Because the number of shoppers actually didn't change, so they theorized that maybe people took the bus or walked instead. The really interesting thing was car accidents. Car accidents actually did go up by a significant amount on Friday the 13th. I think what they concluded was that car accidents were something like 50% more likely to happen.
Holy cow!
Day. Yeah.
Yeah, 52% more. Yeah, 52%. That's crazy.
But there were actually fewer cars on the road. So you would think if there were fewer cars on the road, probably there wouldn't be as many accidents. But there were, for whatever reason. It could be any number of things. I mean, it could be that people are more paranoid about driving on that day, and they get too jittery behind the wheel or something. It could be that, hey, who knows, maybe Friday the 13th is actually more unlucky than normal. But either way, oh, I hear it. It's coming.
Sorry. Is he coming?
But yeah, who knows? They could just have more anxiety about driving, and, they could get in an accident because they're anxious. There was another study, I can't remember all the details about it, but it actually showed that people who have good luck charms, say, before a baseball player steps up to the plate, they, do something to their hat or some shit like that. They actually will do better when that good luck charm is applied. So there is something to be said about people's perceptions of events and people's perception of luck and how things actually do turn out. So maybe, I don't know, if you want to be more lucky, just consider yourself as a lucky person, and maybe, good things might happen to you.
That actually segues beautifully into the little autism thing I wanted to get into real quick. Because I think luck, just generally as a concept, is a really fascinating thing, because you can take it as a very scientific you can try and study the human perception of it and that sort of thing. I think that makes it a bit sterile and separates it from day-to-day living, which is really, everybody you live day to day. And so that's the kind of perspective I like to have. But I consider myself to be a fairly lucky person. I definitely do believe in luck. And it's kind of a weird thing. I don't know. I never have done a study on myself or anything like that, but, it's just good things tend to happen to me a lot in my life. Things I just feel like everything has worked out for me in my life, even when bad things happen, somehow everything worked out. And as I grew up, I started to think about bad things happen to me, good things happen, but I feel like at the end of the day, I still came out with positive luck. And then I grow up a little bit more, and I start thinking maybe it's a matter of my attitude, and which gets directly into what you were saying about human perception. Just a few examples of my luck. like I've never really had a job where I had bad coworkers or bad managers, that sort of thing. Whenever I needed a job, it just sort of like came to me,
kind of appeared.
The work, the work was like really great. And as a callback way back in early Paranormies, this might touch a little bit on the whole concept of slack magic and riding the wave of sort of like cosmic scale
synchronicity.
Events. Synchronicity. Which that was a good episode. That was really fun. And so I'm kind of curious what you two think about luck, because I think it has somewhat to do with attitude. I think there definitely are unlucky people, but I also tend to be a little bit more optimistic in terms of my own perception of my life. Like even when bad things happen, like my dad died when I was 19, and like that sucks, obviously, but like he fought a really long battle with cancer, far like longer than the doctor, way longer than the doctors gave him to live, years longer. And so in a sense, I consider myself like, yeah, he died young and that sucks. But I look at it like, man, it was great that even despite all that, I was still able to, spend this time with him that I shouldn't, quote, shouldn't, unquote, have had to have with him. So I don't know if it's a matter of my perception. I believe in luck. What do you guys think?
I definitely believe in luck.
Yeah, I do.
I do. You go ahead first, Scott.
Weird experiences. Okay. I've had weird experiences with luck. Like, I think I consider myself a very lucky person. I've had situations where it's like, bad things should have happened to me that didn't, that I'm, wondering like, why didn't they happen? I don't know if this is really luck or some other sort of paranormal type thing, but one thing that comes to mind, when I was a kid, I was at my grandfather's house, and my grandparents have like all these giant trees in their front yard. The house is not in the middle of the woods per se, but there's trees all over the yard, and they're real old giant trees. So I'm just kind of walking around, not paying attention to anything, and all of a sudden I hear this voice say "stop." And I stop, and like as soon as I do, just like a split second later, right in front of me where I would have been walking, this giant branch just crashes into the ground. And I mean, it would have fucked me up bad. Like I probably would have died or something if it hit me in the head. So I don't know if you'd really call that luck or some sort of something else. But I mean, even still, I've never really been, I don't think, an unlucky person. Like I know, like one example is money, where you mentioned that whole slack magic thing, and I don't think I listened to that episode, because as soon as you said slack magic, like a light bulb went off my head, like holy shit, that's what I would call it. Because like I don't know how to describe it. I've never really run out of money. It's just one of those things where it's like if I get low on money, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm getting low on money. And then sometime later, I'll just kind of, run into some, basically, whether I get like offered a job or
not listening to our older stuff.
I know. I'm sorry. Applied for the job.
Right. I guess when you're the guy who says, "Hey, what do you think of this name?" and we all go, "That's it." Yeah, you get to.
But doesn't that kind of prove my whole luck thing?
You're and I was gonna say in B. Well, no, B. That was my B. I said A first, and B.
Oh, I stole your B.
You stole my B. See, there you go. You stole my B. You B. No.
No, another thing I do is, and this is kind of my own superstition, I don't like being around unlucky people. And I do actually think that some people are just, for whatever reason, just naturally unlucky. And I don't like being around them because I don't want to catch it. Like,
I think that a lot of that has to do with their mentality, though. A lot, like Adam was saying, a lot of it is, and this ties back to some earlier episodes we had with Weave and Lawrence Murray with meme magic, and you can meme luck.
Yeah,
and I've done it, and I'll get to it when it's my turn. But you finish up first, Scott.
Okay. Oh, I was just I thought of this one exceptionally unlucky person that I am aware of. It's a coworker of a friend, and my friends always tell me about them, so I get all these funny stories. This woman's like, I think she's like 60, and she's like a janitor or something. God. And just everything in her life. Well, first off, like, you're 60 and a janitor, like, you know.
Right. That's why I said God.
You're obviously right. So obviously you don't have the best luck in the first place.
You done goofed along the way.
Yeah. All this bad shit is always happening to this woman. Like, her car's always like fucking exploding, and like her cat's tail's rotting off. Like, just all these fucking shit just happens, you know? But the thing is, every time this woman sees my friend, she's like, hey, can I borrow $10? And it's like, what for? Oh, I need some cigarettes. I don't have any. Or no, I'm sorry. I spent all my money on cigarettes. I can't afford lunch. Like, I think that's one of those things where you kind of make your own luck at that point, you know? Like, yes, you may be an unlucky person, but if you're spending your food money on cigarettes, you're probably also contributing to your own bad circumstances, at least a little bit.
Yeah. It's kind of like gambling, where, you know, you can learn about the odds. Even if you can't overcome, like, probability, you can be like, you know, you can study the probability and be like, all right, well, let's go with the good probabilities.
Right.
Not
well,
the
and the thing about probability is half the people fall on the other side of the line, whether it's good or bad. You know, like, that's just the average. So, you know, say you have a 1 in whatever shot of, you know, hitting 21 on blackjack. Well, you know, some people do it. Like, there's a fraction of people that end up doing it. So, I don't know. I mean, I do think that you tend to make your own luck or not in life.
I think so. I think so too. A lot of it
reminds me of a post I saw one time on like 4chan or something, where someone's like talking about being an HR person, and they're like, so the first thing you want to do is you have your resumes and you just shuffle them up and you take half of them and you throw them in the trash because you don't want unlucky people working for you. And I just thought the idea of like, well, if your resume got thrown in the trash, you're unlucky. So, you know.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. That reminds me. I'm sorry to cut you off, Johnny. I just want to. This funny story. One of the professors I used to take classes from, when he was helping out with grad student applications, they would just go through and, you know, they would have like a floor to ceiling stack of applications, and the first thing they did was just go through, and if the school wasn't, they wouldn't look at anything but the school, and if the school wasn't good enough, that shit was in the trash.
Wow.
Well, and I can see why they would do that too, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, that's all.
Okay, so Scott, are you all good now?
Yeah, I think I got it all out.
Even the crazy cat lady with the cigarettes and the rotting tail cat.
Well, yeah, the poor cat. God, she didn't have any fucking money for this cat, and so, you know, she smoked cigarettes in her trailer all day, and you know, the cat got a wound on its tail, and it couldn't heal up properly because the cat's breathing in cigarette smoke all day, and
Jesus Christ,
the cat died because, like, you know, it rotted basically.
Butt cancer.
And it's like, oh, I can't. Yeah, who knows? And it's like, oh, I can't afford to take it to the vet. Well, maybe you shouldn't have it, you know? That's all. It's just, I'll have to think of more stories to tell you guys off air, but yeah, I do think people make their own bad luck.
I do too.
I think people at least make their own bad luck.
I do. I totally believe that too. And one of the stories that I like. I mean, I don't like to tell. It's a story that I know very well. But my dad used to say, you know, I don't know if you guys remember. There's an old show called Hee Haw.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that show's funny.
You guys remember Hee Haw? And there's the one song, it's all gloom, despair, and agony on me. Deep, dark depression, excessive misery. If it weren't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. Mm-hmm. Right? You know, gloom, despair, and agony on me. And then, like, they'd pop up from the cornfield and they'd talk they, like say stuff, and like somebody say something, Mama did, and it's because she set herself on fire, or whatever, But okay. So, well, my dad would say, if it wasn't for bad luck, our family wouldn't have any luck at all. I just think about that. I'm like, man, that attitude right there, Dad, is why you're doing shitty. And I don't want to say that my dad did shitty, because he didn't. I mean, like, he did fairly well for himself in life and whatever, but he could have done better, I think, had he had a better outlook towards it. And I think a lot of that has to do with the meme magic. Not necessarily meme magic, but Slack magic, when you have a positive attitude, you're going to do better. I've always kind of had, I have friends, one of my friends is like, Johnny, dude, you're like a cat with 900 lives. Like, doesn't matter how high of a building you fall off of, you land on your feet. Like, he's a friend of mine who went through my electrical apprenticeship training with me, and like he's with me for 5 years, so he knows me pretty well. And it's like, bad things happened, and I ended up with family issues and housing problems and like whatever. It didn't matter. Like, I kept a positive attitude, and I always ended up in a better place, Mm-hmm. And like you were saying, Scott, with money, like every time I ran out of money, I'm like, fuck, how am I going to pay this? Oh, look, here's $100. Or like it would be like, and one of my things, people who know me know that I don't like to gamble, because gambling is degenerate. I like to play poker, and poker is not degenerate, because poker is a battle of minds.
That's a game of skill, not chance.
It is a game of skill. It's a game of chance as well, because there are 52 cards that you have to battle against, but there is so much mathematics. There's so many mathematics. There's so much math involved. There's a lot more. And I have a tendency to clean up at poker. I've read all the poker theory books. I've read, all the strategy guides and whatever. But there's that. But then you have to go with the luck. And my luck is, I feel like I'm going to win every time I go. I don't have I take a bad beat because, say, somebody, with their pocket twos rivered a 2 on me and beat my pocket aces, and they beat me that one pot. Well, by the end of the night, my positive energy and my memeing of myself to win, for some reason, I go home with more money than that guy does. I've always been like that. Like, situations, like, just like my living situation, I am living in a place where people would kill to live for, where I live right now. But I also, because of when I moved in with my roommates, who now no longer live with me, I have one of the biggest apartments in the city I live in, and I pay less rent because of rent control that I happen to inherit from the people who lived here before me. Just like coincidences that aren't coincidences. It's luck. You know what I mean? It's like, I have 10 years previous rent control to the rent control that I own now. So like, now I'm living in a 3,200 square foot apartment for less than 60 cents a square foot. Which is unheard of.
Crazy expensive. Unheard
of in the city I live in. Yeah. Right now, my apartment should be $5,000 a month, but it's not, because of my luck. Because of my luck. Yeah. So I've in my jobs, when I was an apprentice as an electrician, we rotate, we go to different shops, because there's so much electrical work in the city of San Francisco, so much different kinds of things, and that they want the apprentices to be able to do it all. So every 6 months you go to a different shop. That way you do different stuff. You don't get stuck at one shop doing one thing for your whole 5-year apprenticeship. So with my rotations, I ended up being lucky. Like, every time I'd go to a place, it was like a good job, clean conditions, a good foreman, all the scrap wire went to the apprentices. So like, I would get like an extra $100 a week and basically free money, because they were giving us all this scrap wire. It was just, every time I turn around, I was like, dude, it's like something good is happening to me. And the more positive I felt, the more I kept, like, the I'm lucky thing going on, the better I did. And there were sometimes when like something bad would happen and I would get down about it. I would have to stop myself and think, and I've done it many times where I just stopped and said, hey, no, you're a lucky person. This isn't your attitude. This is the wrong attitude to have. Get back to, the good attitude, and boom, it went right back. It was like I got right back into the flow of the universe or whatever it is, with my military career, it was the same thing, I was having family problems. My dad started getting sick. I'm like, well, I can't be stationed in Hawaii. I can't be stationed in Italy. I can't be stationed, I can't be stationed abroad, and you get to choose. And literally the 12 of us in my graduating class picked out of a hat. We literally picked out of a hat, and I picked the location that was closest to where my dad lived. It's just that kind of luck. I've had that luck my entire life. One time,
one reminded me of a story. Whenever you're done.
Okay. One time when I was speaking of luck, my mom, my brother, and I, we were going from, we lived in South Carolina at the time. We were visiting my family in Connecticut. It was over the Christmas holiday. We're driving back. It's like January 2nd or something. And we're driving down, I think it's 77 that goes through Virginia. Is that right? Down towards South Carolina, 70 something. I don't know. Anyways, it's a tight little 4-lane highway, 2 lanes on either side. Something happened and we pulled over to the side of the road. My mom's got her little Honda, whatever it was. And, we're waiting for the car broke down. We're waiting for the tow truck, and I'm in the trunk of the car looking for something in my bag. And I kind of look up and I see my mom, and her eyes are as big as dinner plates. I kind of looked at her, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And I kind of felt the breeze behind me. And I turned and I looked, and there was nothing. Then I turned and looked the other way. There was a semi going sideways down the freeway because it was, 6 feet of snow. It literally came, my mom said it came 2 inches from taking me out.
Right.
But my luck, I just happened to be in the right place where I wouldn't get hit. I have so many of those. I mean, I can tell you story upon story upon story where I should have died, but I didn't because of my luck.
But you have to almost wonder, then again, had you died, I mean, there could be another paranormal out there who died in like 2006 or something, and he's not on the show just because he had bad luck one time.
Some goy we never met.
Yeah,
he didn't think positively, and that truck ran him over.
Yeah, who knows? I don't know. I mean, I think that if luck is real, I think it is, but I think if luck is real, I don't think it's always necessarily some giant thing. I think it's more of a bunch of little things adding up over time.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't think that luck and like this ties in with the like magic thing. I don't think that those are necessarily practices that will lead to like some big huge thing, like the sky split open and the winning lottery ticket falls out or whatever. But I think a lot of times it's one of those things where it just kind of just pushes the scale in your favor, so to speak. Like, just kind of tips the averages your way a little more than often.
Right.
And I think that's kind of been my experience with luck is, it's not always some huge thing, but it'll be something where, oh, hey, that turned out pretty good. If that's a 7 instead of a 5, like as far as, how good the experience could have gone. So I think that that's kind of, at least for me, how my luck is manifested more than anything. But, then again, I've had a couple weird experiences as well. You mentioned the thing with the military station thing. And when I joined the military, I didn't get a job that I wanted. I was going to be a medic instead. And I didn't really want to be a medic. So I was at MEPS. Is that the right one? It's been a while since I...
MEPS, yeah. It's the Military Entrance Processing Station. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. MEPS is where you, like, pick your job and all that.
Right.
So they saw my ASVAB scores, which is like your... what would you call an ASVAB? It's like an aptitude test.
It's like a standardized, yeah.
It's
And
literally
they're
the
like,
It's called Anyway, it's a aptitude test.
right?
Literally in the name.
So they saw the score and they're like, "Oh, hey, let's try to get you into this other job instead of being a medic." And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. I'd like to do that." And they, type it up on their system, and turns out they couldn't find any. So they're like, "Oh, that's weird." And they just so happen, they're like, "Well, maybe I'll just I'll search by this specific job, this specific like MOS." And they searched that way, and one popped up. And they're like, "Oh, hey, one popped up." It literally, the space got cleared in between like them typing it the first time and them typing it the second time. And that's how I got the job that I got, which I ended up enjoying a lot. So, I mean, I guess that kind of falls under like a big luck thing rather than a little luck thing, but it's just one of those things where like when it's happening, you're like, how the fuck? Like it's almost surreal when it happens,
The term surreal is a good word because it seems like it's a dream that's happening.
Yeah,
that's great. Hey, Adam, you said something. I'm sorry. No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, if you get into like the whole beliefs, like the new agey type thing of like people who believe that you kind of like choose your life before you were born, like pre-incarnation. Supposedly those sequences where things don't feel quite real, that's supposed to be because these are like scripted events, basically.
Oh, and by the way,
no
it's the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, so aptitude, yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha. But yeah, like, so when one of those happens, supposedly it's because it was meant to happen, and these are kind of like scripted events, like in a video game or what have you. Yeah, that was all.
Adam, talking about other superstitions besides luck, before the break, and I remember you saying something about we did the broken mirror earlier. We talked about cats. You guys remember deal with witches and cats, right? Well, you remember the superstition of a black cat crossing your path, right?
Right.
Oh, if a black cat crosses your path, you're gonna have bad luck. It's an omen of death. And other versions are like, if a black cat is walking towards you, it'll bring you good luck. If the black cat's walking away, it takes good luck away.
Interesting.
Back to
that one. The only one I'd heard was, if it crosses your path, that's bad in all
right.
cases.
Well, back to ancient Egypt, cat worshipping. There's many hieroglyphs of cats being worshipped.
Do you think that has something to do with like maybe an ancient belief of like favors of the gods and stuff? Like, the cat walks towards you, that's like Anubis or whoever showing you favor, and then if they walk,
I think somewhat, yeah. I mean, it's as much as the Egyptians emphasized their cat worship, it definitely means something, and I don't think that the modern world has even close to cracked anything of Egyptian lore. You know what I mean? So many things.
Weird.
How much of a mystery they still are.
Yeah, I want to do some Egyptian stuff one of these days. We'll get into like mummies and that kind of, we'll do a Kangs episode. Well, February is coming up, so we got Kangs month.
We got to do that then.
We got fake Black History Month. Since we are on the TRS network, and other shows on the TRS network, namely the Daily Showa tends to do a fake Black History Month. I think maybe we can do a fake Black History Month Paranormies. Yeah. But anyways,
everything you're saying is making me think of the one your new favorite Kangs picture with the dick washers.
Oh my god! And that's a real picture. That's not like a meme that somebody drew. I wanna link this on the show. No. Because now we're gonna have to put it in the YouTube, and people are gonna be like, "Why are there Egyptians?" No. Okay. Anyways, so in ancient Egypt, back to ancient Egypt. Okay, all the cats were like highly regarded, whether they were black, white, whatever. Right? Cats were worshipped. And and especially, well, in Egypt, the black ones. So in the Middle Ages, black cats were seen as demons and companions to witches, right? So, we went back to the cats and the cat being the number 13 for the original witches coven. Well, because black cats were seen as demons, that was why it was believed that the black cat crossing your path would block your connection to God. So it would actually, the paranoia surrounding that superstition caused the destruction of a lot of black cats, and the severe punishment or even killing. Like, they would kill you if you owned a black cat in the Middle Ages.
Now,
so that's a superstition.
Some of that. Now, the black cat thing is one thing, but do you think some of the whole cat fear during the Middle Ages has to do with the fact that cats carry fleas and fleas carry the Black Death?
I don't think they knew germ theory at the time.
You don't have to.
We're talking the Middle Ages.
You don't have to know germ. You don't have to know germ theory to understand. Oh, the cat shows up, and then 2 weeks later, half the town is dead.
Kill the cat. Yeah, no, I get. Yeah, no, I get like that.
Eventually, people start to put 2 and 2 together.
Well, these are the same people that thought the Earth was flat and there were sea monsters and stuff. So
that's a myth.
Well,
the Earth is flat, right?
It is. Right. Yeah, I have a T-shirt to prove it.
That's another episode.
Right. So Adam, you said something earlier about spilling salt.
Yeah, that one seems weird because there's sort of one of the meta things you can sort of talk about in terms of oh great, I can't find this. Oh, here we go. So in terms of superstitions, generally is like they seem to just be these random things that people do or think in order to try and control their luck. And the spilling salt thing, I'm kind of skeptical of some of the rationalizations about it because it's not a new superstition. Apparently, there's old German proverbs. There's one that says, "Whoever spills salt arouses enmity." Enmity. And so there's like rationalizations about it where it's like, oh, well, salt is really expensive at the time. That's where the word salary comes from. They used to pay people in salt because that's how valuable it was. And it makes sense as a current, well, not a currency so much, but it's valuable because it's, it's easy to divide up. You can carry, small amounts of it easily. It's useful for preserving foods, that sort of thing. It's used in a lot of rituals. It has this, this metaphysical significance. Even Jesus talked about the salt of the earth, which I think is really curious because salted soil is not conducive to plant growth. And yet, he made this weird reference to being the salt of the earth as the good thing. He considered the saints, which at the time just meant anybody who followed him, to be the salt of the earth and all this stuff. But now it's kind of evolved into this very modern sort of I don't want to say sterile, but like there's not a ton of meeting where it's like you spill salt and you throw it over your shoulder, which apparently is supposed to be you throw it over your left shoulder into the face of the devil who is waiting there, and I guess like get it in his eyes, and he's like, yeah, fuck this, and leaves. Is
that what it was supposed to mean?
I always heard as a kid.
Yeah,
you threw it into the eyes of the devil over the opposite shoulder. You always throw it over your opposite shoulder. I remember that.
Yeah, because like I guess Satan like notices you spill the salt, and he's like, "Oh, what's this? Let me."
The funny thing about a salt spilling story is my Italian grandmother, my uncle, would do the salt over his shoulder every time he sat down at dinner, and my grandmother would get so pissed at him, she'd get the broom out and like sweep it up, like sweep it up right away, like because you're making her kitchen dirty. And in an Italian woman's kitchen, you can eat off the floors, like because they're ridiculously clean, and any little bit of dirt on the floor is like an insult to the woman of the house.
Right.
So my uncle throwing salt on the floor would like just piss her off, and she'd quick break out the broom, sweep it up, and like, give the hand with the the fingers clenched. You know the hand,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Shaking it. Yeah.
Another thing that's sort of related is that apparently spilling wine was lucky. It was like good luck, but that's from a more recent report, 17th century.
Okay, so when Richard Spencer spilled that glass of wine on my new shirt, that was lucky.
Well, maybe for him.
Right. He became the leader of the alt-right because he spilled a glass of Shiraz on my brand new shiny silver shirt.
There you go.
Yeah. But yeah, apparently it goes back to ancient Rome. Piero Valeriano Bolzani, in his book Hieroglyphica in 1556, he said that salt was formerly a symbol of friendship because of its lasting quality. It makes substances more compact, preserves them. It was given to guests before other food. It was like a symbol of friendship. And that I can actually see that, because if it was something that is so important to the society, there's a generosity associated with like, oh, you're a good friend of mine here. I want to, as a symbol of the value of our friendship, I want to give this thing that is valuable to you, as a, friendly generosity. Now, I don't know. I don't spill salt very often. Maybe I should start throwing it over my shoulder. I don't know.
Well, you're already lucky. I mean, how much luckier do you want to get? Greedy?
I don't, I like to give a wink and a smile to Lady Luck every now and then, but I don't want to be, greedy.
Wow. I think it's the only lady you're winking and smiling at.
Oh, got him.
I can't audibly crying mad Wojak, so.
So my question is, why is spilled salt seen as bad, but spilled wine is seen as good? Because, I mean, wine is also expensive, just like salt.
Well,
so why is one good and one bad?
Well, I think the thing about the salt being bad, it was because it was expensive, and spilling it would be like wasteful.
Right, yeah, but if you spill wine, that's also wasteful, and wine is also expensive.
Here's
I guess. Well, and you got to remember it now. For spilling the salt, you also have to remember that in Da Vinci's painting of the Last Supper, Judas is portrayed as the one spilling the salt.
Well, hold on. I think I wasn't clear enough. That was a reproduction of it, a mosaic reproduction of it. Now, it might be in the original one.
It is
but
in the original one.
Yeah. Okay. Never
I'm
mind,
looking at the original one right now.
Are there any superstitions about spilling spaghetti and what that means?
That's a modern meme magic.
That's yeah. You need bigger pockets, apparently. You throw the spaghetti over your shoulder to keep the other spurgs from catching up to you while you're trying to talk to Stacy. You're trying to talk to Stacy, and meanwhile you throw the spaghetti over your shoulder, so the other spurg slips on it.
And it hits me in the face.
Right, yeah. No, I'm actually looking at the original, and not in my house because that would mean I stole it. But the original Da Vinci painting has the spilled salt by Judas's elbow, and behind his back is the knife.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
That's sneaky, man.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna knife
and also there's the Christian belief,
in the wound,
right? And then you put salt in the wound. Salt is bad for the wound, right? Because salt burns. But there's another Christian belief ascribed to the superstition of spilling salt. So they say that good spirits exist on the right hand side, and the devil is seated at the left hand side. So when we spill salt, that was the thing. Yes, we throw the salt with our right hand over the left shoulder to keep the devil and evil and bad luck off our backs and behind us. That was why you throw it over the opposite shoulder. It's your right hand. You throw the salt with your right hand over the left shoulder because the devil sits on the left hand. So
I think it's interesting how often the left side of things comes up when it comes to these superstitions and things like that.
Mm-hmm. There's the left hand path.
Sinister?
There's the
sinister comes from the Latin word for left.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Latin for left is sinister. Yeah, I just think it's interesting how, like collectively, like Western civilization decided left was bad and right was good. I don't know why that would be.
Oh my God, I have an alt-right superstition.
What's that?
Stepping on a crack.
Okay. How's that alt-right?
Well, the alt-right believes in... what do we believe in? We believe in no illegal immigration. We believe in racial purity.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I'm not following where the crack comes in here.
Well, hang on.
Because black people smoke crack.
Well, there's that. So misfortune and bad luck are thought to be the result of stepping on cracks in the pavement. It's the saying, you step on a crack, you break your mother's back, right?
Yeah.
Superstition originated back in the late 19th and early 20th century when racism was prevalent in society. The original verse is to be believed to step on a crack and your mother's baby will be black.
That's definitely...
Due to the fact that interracial marriages were frowned upon, it was also common to say that stepping on the pavement lines meant you would marry a black person and have a black baby. So, listen, Goyim, listen to Johnny Monoxide. Do not step on a crack. Because
that was like the root of the problem here. Like we just need like a bunch
we just need less cracks. We need better pavement. We need more. Listen, my roads are cracked. My roads.
Oh god damn,
that's why libertarianism is not a solution.
Exactly. Actually, so wait, it gets better. So in the mid 20th century, they used to tell kids that if they stepped on a crack in the pavement, they'd be eaten for lunch by bears. That was a popular belief. And then there was...
Doesn't even rhyme.
I know, no. It's like step on a crack and you're going to get eaten by a bear. Like
I love
kids are like
how that one started.
There's the belief. Well, then there's the belief that the when the children made fun of, was it Elijah's bald head?
Yeah.
They got eaten by bears.
You bald head. Go on
up. Go on up, you bald head. And then bears came out in the woods and ate these kids, you little shits. Yeah. Okay. So then there's the belief that so you got cracks in the ground or the pavement or whatever, right? So those lead directly to the underworld. So by stepping on them, the evil demons that dwell there will be released and bring bad luck. So don't step on a crack, or you'll release the demon of Oak Street, wherever you're walking.
Yeah. The demon of MLK Boulevard.
Right. Well, listen, there's plenty of demons on MLK Boulevard, but they're all called Daquan. Or Tyrone.
I think that
Damon.
Bring
Damon.
bring back that one line.
Which one?
The step on a crack, your baby will be black. That's hilarious.
Oh yeah, bring that. Yeah. Well, there was two. It was step on a crack or your baby will be black. And oh shit, I scrolled past it because I thought we were done. Step on a crack and your mother. Step on a crack and your mother's baby will be black, or step on a crack and your mother will turn black.
Oh shit!
I don't know which is worse. Would you rather have a little black brother or your mom turn into a black person?
Oof. I don't know.
Let's just never step on a crack.
Well, I mean, the first one you could hope for SIDS. So,
right.
True.
But the second one, you could hope she's really good at cooking soul food, and you can like get fat on fried chicken or something.
Right, you could have fried chicken, and we are shit posting. Okay, so other superstitions. There's knock on wood. Everybody knows knock on wood.
I do
fairies,
that one.
The fairies that live in the wood.
Yep. You would knock on the wood. You would knock on the wood 3 times after talking about something lucky, in order to like ward off the evil spirits that might, purposefully fuck it up. So yeah.
Well, I've heard 2 things for that. I've heard the one you just said about the evil spirits, because the knocking, like they can't hear it because you knocked. The other one I've heard is that there's like fairies or elves or whatever you want to call them, like the fae folk live in wood, and if you knock on the wood after you say something lucky, it will basically kind of wake them up, and they'll go out and help you out. So I've heard
it's like a thank you or like a hey, help a nigga out kind of a thing. Yeah.
Right.
A thank you gesture or whatever. Yeah. Well, there's Irish folklore, and the Irish, there's a lot of that. The fairy people in the Irish.
About the fairies, like they have, they cut holes in their houses, so the fairies will go through. Like if your house is on a ley line.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Like even building a house on a ley line isn't even okay. And real quick, you want to give an explanation of what a ley line is before people?
You can, because you probably understand better now.
Shit,
like,
I wasn't. I wasn't prepared for ley lines tonight. No, yeah, right. Put me on the spot.
Something to do with like.
No,
it's lines that line up to certain points along the earth, and they have to do with.
And they have spiritual and psychological energy, and there's a lot to that. We'll do actually. You know what, guys? We should do a ley lines episode because there are so many things on ley lines that shouldn't be lined up because when they were built, the people on those continents didn't know that was on the other continent and that they lined up with. So we're gonna do a ley lines episode. Actually, it's a really good idea.
Okay. I'm just gonna rewatch Highlander a couple times, and I should be good to go.
Yeah, right. You'll be good. But, so, like, back to the Irish folklore of touching wood and knocking on wood or whatever. That was like they like to listen. When the Irish touch wood and when you touch wood, it's a different thing, Adam.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Irish do it. It's a method of saying thank you to the leprechauns for some good luck or whatever. Greeks worshipped the oak tree because it was sacred to Zeus, and the Celts believed in spirits living in trees. So touching the trees or knocking on the trees or slapping the trees or whatever, it brought good luck. And then when pagan beliefs became Christian beliefs, because we all know that a lot of Christianity was just absorbed pagan stuff. The superstition was this was one of them. So a lot of people believe that knocking on wood was associated with the cross. So the whole putting together a cross, you knock the nails through to make the cross. A Jewish version of the superstition traces back to the Spanish Inquisition of the 15th century.
Or they would make coins out of wood to defraud Goyim. I mean, yeah, sorry.
Close. You're not far off. You're not far off. So the Jews fled to wooden-built synagogues and came up with a specific knock code. Like a... right or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they would do it, like na 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 na. I don't know, right? But so these refugees, they saved a lot of Jewish lives, unfortunately, and then it became common to knock on wood to bring good luck. So maybe it was a Jewish thing for the knocking on things for good luck. So maybe we shouldn't be knocking on things for good luck. I don't know.
By the 1800s, Goyish energy.
Yeah. So by the 1800s, like kids' games had rhymes about knocking on wood for luck, and in the 1900s, the Americans and the British were doing the same. So, and now everybody knocks on wood. It's like, oh, we're gonna get that job and knock on wood. And the joke is like when there's no wood around, you knock on your own head as a joke. Knock on wood. I'll knock on my head because my head is
right.
I'm an idiot. My head is made of wood.
In the lab I worked at, we actually, like, as a joke, we just kept up because all the in the office, all the desks were this IKEA, plastic bullshit. So we kept like a plank of plywood when we were about to go do an experiment or whatever.
Plank?
We would just
nice.
we would just like knock on it before we went and did something that like we knew would be a pain in the ass, just to hope.
That's funny.
Right.
Oh, did you guys know that sneezing has a superstition around it?
What, like say bless you?
Well, there's the bless you, God bless you. That goes back to like 590 AD.
Doesn't it have to do something with like the soul escaping from the body? Have you heard that before?
Yeah, that was the thing. Yeah, that was part of it. The early superstitions were like your breath was representative of your own soul. So breathing in was life, breathing out was death. Sneezing was like a quick release of that. So if your soul left your body through a sneeze, it was presumed you would die without your soul. So, Yeah. So
According to my Japanese animes, if you sneeze and there's not like pepper or whatever to bring it on, it's because someone is gossiping about you.
I heard when I was a kid, the gossip thing was when your ears would burn. You know what I'm talking about? When your ears
we
would
say that all the
burn.
time. Somebody shows up, you're like, "What? Are your ears burning?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, there were two. I think if I remember, it was like your left ear was someone was gossiping about you, and your right ear was someone was coming to visit or something like that.
That is rather specific.
I can't remember exactly how it went, but it was something like that. Like one was gossiping, one was someone's visiting.
That's weird. Okay, so sneezing. So the God bless you thing, Adam, you said, right? It goes back to like 590 when Pope Gregory the Great, he said that prayers would be said to fight against the plague in Italy, and when the plague was, the people who had the plague sneezed a lot. Right. So it followed that if you sneezed, it represented a certain illness. And so saying God bless you would protect people from the sneeze. So it was like, dude, yeah, it wasn't like a courteous thing as it is now, you know.
Right.
It was like oh shit, we're gonna die.
Yeah. Well, because no. When you got the Black Plague, you know, actually in 1665, when the Black Plague was like killing people in Europe, like you know, the violent sneezing would be one of the end stage symptoms of it. You know, you would just sneeze and sneeze and sneeze and sneeze and sneeze, and you would start sneezing up blood, and like, you know, then you would, and your lungs would fill up with blood, and you would die. So the Pope made it a law that anyone who sneezed must be blessed, and as the individual's death was imminent. So during that same era, it was mandated that people cover their mouths with their hand in a cloth so as to not further spread the disease. So they were doing what we used to call the Batman, where you put your arm in the crook of your elbow when you sneeze. Now they call it, you do the dab. Do the dab, yeah. They had the dab back in, you dab on it back in 1665.
DAB stands for destroy all bacteria.
That's right. But there's other superstitions around sneezing. So back in the early Greeks and Romans and Egyptians, they believed that when somebody sneezed, it was a sign of good fortune or an omen of bad luck, or depends, an omen of bad luck. It was your own personal prophet.
Your bets, like it could go either.
It could go either way. Well, depending on who it was, actually. Yeah. Well, it said that they believed that a sneeze was their own personal prophet, forewarning them of danger and forecasting future good and evil. Additionally, one would be congratulated upon sneezing because the evil spirits were freed from embodiment. It was also believed at the time that a sneeze during conversation revealed the truth of the statement. Even today, you may hear somebody say, "I sneezed on the truth." Interesting.
I've got to say, I've never heard that.
Oh, you've never heard that? Well, yeah.
No, not once.
They probably still say it in Rome.
In the 1800s, there was a rhyme about sneezing. Sneeze on a Monday, sneeze for danger. Sneeze on a Tuesday, kiss a stranger. Sneeze on a Wednesday, sneeze for a letter. Sneeze on Thursday, something better. Sneeze on a Friday, sneeze for woe. Sneeze on a Saturday, a journey to go. Sneeze on a Sunday, your safety seek, for Satan will have you the rest of the week.
Brutal.
Yep. Right? It's good luck to sneeze between noon and midnight. It's bad luck to sneeze while getting dressed in the morning because bad luck will be with you throughout the day. It's a good omen for the whole family if the family cat sneezes. It's good luck if two people sneeze at the same time. I've heard that many times. If two people sneeze at the same time, that's like trips or quads, you know. It's bad luck to turn your head to the left while sneezing, but good luck to turn your head to the right.
Oh, there's that right thing again.
Yeah, it's bad luck to sneeze 1 or 3 times, but sneeze twice or 4 times, it's good luck. In Japan, sneezing once is somebody speaking kindly about you. Twice is that somebody's not speaking kindly about you. And 3 times is somebody speaking disparagingly about you. And 4 times is, nigga, you got a cold. You have a cold. Like, yeah. The thing about sneezing, physiologically speaking about sneezing, it's literally a reaction to irritating foreign particles or allergies or whatever in your sinus passages. So, like, have you ever heard the theory that bright light can bring on a sneeze?
Oh, dude, it happens to me all the time.
Yeah, when you get that feeling, when you feel a sneeze coming on, you start fanning your face, guys, like whatever, you look up at the light and you sneeze. I have no idea what that is. If it's meme magic, we've memed that into existence, but there is no scientific evidence to prove that looking at a light helps you sneeze.
Well, obviously,
no, actually,
bright light represents
I got it actually all over the place. That's a well-known scientific thing.
Is it?
What is it? Yeah, it has something to do with basically some wires being crossed in your brain between your eyes and your nose.
Really?
Yep, that's a known thing. I could probably actually look it up. Yeah, it's called the
you're right. The sneeze reflex. The photic sneeze reflex. And once again, we proved me wrong right away.
Well, that just means we're good researchers.
Jesus Christ. It's called the photo sneeze reflex, or the ACHOO. The autosomal wait a second. The autosomal dominant complex helio-ophthalmic outburst of sneezing syndrome. It's literally called the Google wouldn't tell me that if it was a lie.
No,
the ACHOO syndrome. Now, do they call it the ACHOO syndrome because of the abbreviation, or do they call it the ACHOO syndrome because you say motherfucking ACHOO when you sneeze?
The abbreviation came second. That's some scientist trying to be fucking funny.
Yeah, scientists.
Right.
Some of those guys are cheeky. Like they named the autism gene Sonic Hedgehog.
They did not.
Serious?
No. Adam's just being cheeky.
No, there's no way. There's no way. You're fucking with me.
He is.
All right. But I believe it. That's the thing.
It could be. You never know with these scientist weirdos.
There is a Sonic Hedgehog gene.
Okay, there is.
Now I don't know how much of the truth.
It's a protein.
Yeah.
I guess
so. Okay, so let's get back to superstitions. Superstitions besides Sonic the Hedgehog. Crossing your fingers is a very common superstition.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's right. Luck. Horseshoes are luck. 4-leaf clovers are luck. Do you guys know what the deal with the 4-leaf clover is?
I would have to guess it's just because they're uncommon. But
yeah, because of the rarity in nature. Yeah, no, you're right. Because of the rarity in nature. But do you know what some of the beliefs are? Like, each of the 4 leaves, like one is it's faith, hope, love, and luck.
Like the 4 virtues.
Yeah, the 4 virtues. Yeah, it's a charm that protects you from evil. The penny. Find a penny, pick it up all day long. You'll have good luck. You know that one.
I think that's a Jewish one.
I think, you know what? I'm looking at it right now. Now, there's other people who believe that this came from a pagan ritual. Oh. See a pin and pick it up, and all day you'll have good luck. This lucky pin would then be used in a good luck incantation.
Utensil or like a
pin.
Pen?
Pin. P-I-N.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick on the Sonic Hedgehog thing.
Yeah, I have to know.
This gene has been linked to a condition known as holoprosencephaly, which can result in severe brain, skull, and facial defects. So all these ugly autistic kids, they play Sonic the Hedgehog, don't feel good. Boom, autism. There's many such cases.
Many such cases. God. I hope the commenters don't yell at us for shit posting again.
We've been doing it for an hour.
We've been pretty on topic this time.
Yeah.
We're doing
I think we did good. And anybody who doesn't think so,
we had
leave a comment. Leave a comment.
Leave a comment and frig right the frig off. No, you know what? We have undergone catastrophic changes here at the Paranormies, and we are doing our best.
So leave us alone, God damn it.
So yeah,
We're trying our
no,
best.
but seriously, listen, we love all you Goyim that listen to us. We appreciate it, and
I do actually. I read every single comment.
I do too. I cry every time, but I
compulsively read every comment.
I can't not. I mean, it's my show. It's Adam's show. It's our show. Like, how can you not? Those people that say they don't read the comments, they lie. And so I was a liar. Anyway, we're gonna wrap this up. We've got a creepypasta for you coming up, but happy Friday the 13th, Goyim. We're gonna be back next week. We're gonna have a cool guest. I don't want to drop any names, but some of you will know who it is. And you guys got anything? What's it? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. God damn it, Scott! I said to not. No, it's not Trump. It's not Trump. But yeah. Any last closing remarks on Superstitions or Friday the 13th or anything you guys want to?
To all the Goyim out there listening, be careful on the road this Friday.
Oh yeah, don't go driving. Just stay at home.
Yeah.
Not that you're gonna leave. No, just kidding.
No,
Stay
we were
home,
gonna. I was gonna
Friday.
drive. Then actually, now that you guys mentioned that, I was gonna drive Friday. We have a special guest out here. Ms. Emily Yukis is coming out to the West Coast to come hang out with some people, and we're doing a little deal. And I was gonna drive, but then I'm like, it's Friday the 13th, and somebody said they would drive. I'm like, yeah, sure, you can drive. So I'm going to ride and use my good luck to make sure we don't get into any sort of particular incident.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to use my meme magic. Yeah. So
I'm gonna stay at home and do nothing. But I mean, hey, I was already doing that. So
wow, you are way ahead of schedule.
Yes. Yeah, it sure was.
Naturally lucky. All right, guys. Well, for therightstuff.biz, I am Johnny Monoxide with Adam Haidt and Scott Taylor. We have been the Paranormies present the Ahnenerbe Hour, and we're going to have a little creepypasta for you, and we will see you next week. Later.
More ham for Gizmo.
Bye.
I've always been an unlucky guy, as far back as I can remember. Whether it was broken bones as a kid, financial misfortune as an adult, or the fact that I am a complete romantic failure, I've just never been able to seem to catch a break in life. The one exception to this rule has been my career at sea. I've survived storms and gales that would terrify even the most hardened sailor. Twice my ship had sank, and twice I've washed up on distant shores with no memory of what happened. I don't know what to make of it, other than to say that maybe God put all my luck into one basket when I was born. It's ironic, then, that I was chosen as the captain of one of the safest ships to have ever been built. Not that I'm complaining. In fact, just the other day I inherited more money than I know what to do with from some long-forgotten, distant aunt who I never even knew existed. I met a girl this year, a nice girl, who seems to like me for me. I plan on proposing after I return from the maiden voyage of my ship. I don't know what finally turned my luck around. I like to think that maybe God finally decided that I don't need all that luck out at sea anymore, especially since I'm the captain of the safest ship on the ocean. Whatever it is, I'm not complaining. I mention all this to my girl, and she seems to think otherwise. She begs me not to go out to sea again. Says that my recent fortunes are a sign that I'm not meant to be on the ocean anymore. I think she's more superstitious than us sailors are. I've told her that. No matter what she says, I'm going to set sail tomorrow. There's no need for luck now. After all, the Titanic is the safest ship ever built.
Bye.